Well, today we're going to do a little trash to treasure project and create this cute little footstool. Stay tuned and see how fun and easy this project is. All right, the main part of our footstool, or ottoman, or whatever you want to call it, is a chunk of tube that was inside of like a roll of aluminum foil from the kitchen. This is the same tube that I used when I cut the piece for the side part of the barbecue grill, if you remember that project from a few months ago. I used this as a pattern to cut a piece of cardboard. Now this is the backing from a tablet that I had that I'd used up all the paper. It's not a super thick one, but it was easy to cut with my scissors. And I have a cotton ball. Now this cotton ball is huge, so I am going to cut it. I know it'll unroll, but I'm just going to cut it. So I've got about 1/4 of it probably. And now I'm going to get some glue, and I'm going to put on this. And I don't have to cover it all the way, just most of the top of it, just so this will stay in place. And since there's glue here, I am going to use just a pair of paper scissors to cut this part. I also have my good fabric scissors on the table because we are going to use those in a moment to cut our fabric. But I didn't really want to get all this glue all over my good scissors. There. And if I'm coughing and hacking, I'm sorry. My sinuses are bugging me yet again. All right, now that I've got that glued to my fingers, now I have a piece of white fabric. I've actually got 2 pieces of white fabric. I have this little piece here that's just a little bit bigger than that. And I have this piece that's about 3 inches this way by about 4.5 that way. I'm going to set that off to the side for just now. I'll put this cotton side down on my fabric, and I am going to cover this side of that little cardboard circle with some more glue. I'm going to start by rounding this off using fabric scissors because your paper scissors probably won't cut the fabric very well. And I'm going to, I'm in the camera. I'm going to do my best to pull this over that piece of cardboard and pull it tight over the cotton so it makes a nice edge. By making little notches or little slits in it, it will fold over without making too much of a mess when it goes over. It'll make a smoother fold over. And you'll probably still have some rough edges, and that's okay. Pull it as tight as you can and work that fabric down into the glue. Try and get rid of as many of the little sharp corners that show up on the top of there as you can. And now this can set aside to dry. Now, my fingers are full of glue, so I'm sticking to everything. I am going to take some glue, and I'm going to do that. I'm going to fold this fabric. I'm also going to take a bit of glue And I'm going to run one of these straight edges against this edge, and that's actually going to be the bottom of our footstool. Now I'm going to leave this like this. And I want to get the piece of cotton off my finger. Run a nice bead of glue along the top. And then just kind of a messy bit of glue like this. It's okay if it's not perfectly straight, because we are going to be, this part won't be seen very at all, really. Now I'm not going to try that. I'm going to put some glue down. I'm going to go ahead and glue this. I want a good overlap there. And now I want this glue to dry, because this will need to be dry so it won't shift when I go to fold it and pull it down to cover the footstool. And we're using white. We're going to paint this. You could use a colored fabric. If you have a lightweight colored fabric, that would be fine. I had white on top of my fabric stash. This is actually fabric that we used for the garden flags that we've made in the past, and for the tablecloths. So I'm going to let this glue dry. Once the glue is dry, I'll come back and we can go on to the next step. All right, the glue is dried enough that I'm confident this is not going to fall apart. So I'm going to start folding this down. Now don't pull it away from that bead of glue that we put at the top, but we want it to come down. And try and fold it, try and pull it down so it folds even with the top. We are going to put some cording between it and the cushion, but it's best if we have this as even as possible. Since we've got unfinished edges to our fabric, it is fraying out a bit. Now, I've got some glue here. And I'm going to try to not get too much of this on the surface, but I'm going to run it down just that folded edge. And now I want this to set up for a little while anyway, just so it's not all sticky. I really don't think it'll go anywhere at this point, but I don't want to have my fingers sticking to it any more than I absolutely have to. So I'm going to let this dry for a bit, and when it's set up, I will come back and we'll go to the next step. All right, my glue is set up enough that this is no longer sticky. So now we're going to tuck this in around the bottom. And I am going to actually, from the top, hopefully I've got enough glue in this glue bottle. It's almost empty, and I don't have my big bottle laying down. So I'm going to put glue probably about halfway down, mainly because this isn't going to come all the way to the top. Now I'm going to try to, as neatly as possible, pull this fabric up inside. And that will give us a nice finished bottom to our little footstool, ottoman, whatever you call it in your house. We always called it a footstool when I was growing up, so that's what I tend to call it. Okay. Now that'll be nice and finished looking on the inside. Now I'm going to run some glue. Come on. Oh. Mind if I take the lid off? Wow. It's been a long day, can you tell? I'm trying to film between construction noise. So, and we're going to take this and we're just going to put it right on top. And I want this glue to dry pretty well before I go to the next step, because I don't want to accidentally get my top of my footstool off. There. So I'm going to go wash up. I'm going to let this sit until it's dry. When that's dry, I'll come back and we'll put on some cording around the edge. All right, now I've got a piece of kitchen twine. That's, you know, the stuff that you like use to tie the chicken legs together when you roast a chicken or something like that. Now cut it oversized. It's going to go right here. I figured out, I made a prototype up of this project just to get my sizing down and make sure I liked how it looked. And I made the discovery that this stuff seems to shrink a little bit when you put the glue on it. Let's see, I'm going to get that off so it's kind of lined up with my seam in the back. The glue is not completely dry here, but it's dry enough that nothing's going to shift. And I'm going to make just a small overlap. And there we have. Now, this glue needs to dry because our next step is going to be, we're going to paint this. So I'm actually going to let mine dry. It's getting kind of late. It's almost time to work on dinner. I'm going to let this dry overnight, and tomorrow morning I'll come back and we will get a coat of paint on this and see how it looks in front of a chair. All right, this is completely dry, so now I'm going to paint it. And I didn't have a color I really loved, so I mixed up this. This is simply some white and some brown. I used Woodsy Smoke. This one kind of a beigey color. Hopefully I mixed enough. And then I'm going to paint this in stages. I'm going to start on the sides. I'm going to attempt to get this all painted, but we will see how it goes. On the blog post, I'm going to talk about what to do if you want to use what your options are if you want to use like a patterned fabric. I didn't have any patterned fabric, at least not any that was convenient to get to. But I've got some ideas for how you could do that, and then you wouldn't have to do this step of painting. This is only if you're using a solid color and it's not the color you want. And I also want to make the string I used be the same color as my fabric, which of course it's not. Now I might need to do a second coat on this. I will see how it looks when it dries. And because of that, I am going to put a lid over my paint that I mixed so that it stays nice. Now let's see if I can manage to get this painted. So I'm going to let this dry. I'm going to see what it looks like when it's dry. And then I'll decide if I need to do a second coat. Once it's dry and ready to go, I'll come back and we'll look at our finished footstool. All right, the paint is dry, and I love how this turned out. I didn't get my cord as straight as I would have liked, but it's okay. If you're not doing this on camera, you can take your time and get it done right. And like I said, I will have some suggestions over on the blog as far as if you want to use a different kind of fabric or alternatives for some of the items. So I hope you enjoyed today's video. Be sure and check the blog post. There's pictures over there. I'll try to have some pictures with Mrs. Doll relaxing with her feet up on her footstool. If you enjoyed the video, be sure and hit the like button. Leave me a comment. What kinds of things would you like to see in future videos? If you enjoy my content and haven't subscribed, I encourage you hit that subscription button and the notification bell so you know when I put up a new video. Thank you very much for watching today, and I will talk to you next time. Bye.